French women over 60 with a round midsection have quietly solved a wardrobe problem that most women in this situation encounter more than once. There's a specific kind of dressing room experience that captures it exactly. Something looks right on the hanger. The color is good, the fabric seems right, the cut looks simple enough. Then you put it on, and whatever looked promising a moment ago has rearranged itself into something that doesn't work at all, and you can't quite explain why. The frustration isn't the body. It's that the clothes don't seem to account for the body. Most women's fashion from the mid-market on down is cut for a straight or slightly hourglass silhouette, adjusted for age in ways that usually involve adding fabric in the wrong places. The result is either a shapeless mass that adds bulk rather than reducing it, or a fitted option that maps exactly what you wanted it to skim. Neither of these is a solution, and both of them are really just the same problem wearing a different label. French women over 60 with a round tummy seem to have resolved this, quietly and without much discussion. Not through expensive wardrobes, and not through any particular discipline about food. The women you notice on the streets of Paris, in the Marais, along the Boulevard Saint-Germain, in Lyon, in the smaller towns along the Normandy coast, who carry their weight in the middle and still look somehow proportioned, easy, unhurried, they tend to wear the same 7 things. Not 7 outfits, and not a capsule wardrobe in the commercial sense. Just 7 pieces that appear again and again in different combinations, washed and pressed and returned to the rotation as reliably as anything they own. Women like Inès de la Fressange have demonstrated this approach for decades, not as a formula, but as a quietly held understanding of how clothes actually work on a real body. These pieces work not because they hide anything, but because they understand line differently than most style advice suggests. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. The first is the wide-leg trouser. The flowing palazzo variety does not work here because it adds volume throughout and tends to overwhelm a round midsection from the waist down. The cropped wide leg does not work either because it cuts the vertical line at the ankle and pushes the eye upward to wherever it lands. What does work is a true wide leg, high-waisted, with a clean and uninterrupted fall from the hip straight to the floor, in a fabric with enough body to hold its shape. Navy is the most common choice. Charcoal and black are close behind, and sometimes a deep, quiet olive. What this cut does is create a vertical line so unbroken that the eye travels the full length of the leg without pausing at the midsection. The round tummy is still there, but it simply stops being the first thing the eye reaches. French women wearing this trouser tend to tuck only the front of whatever they are wearing on top, loosely, which shortens the visual torso just enough to shift the balance of the whole silhouette. The shoe is almost always flat or low. A ballet flat works particularly well here because it preserves the vertical without any interruption. A platform breaks the line entirely. A modest block heel is fine. A stiletto works, technically, but it changes the personality of the garment in a way that rarely serves the trouser. The second piece is the wrap blouse, not the wrap dress, which comes later on this list. This is specifically the blouse, a light and fluid fabric, usually silk or a well-made silk alternative that wraps and ties at the front. Where the tie sits matters more than most instructions acknowledge. French women with a round midsection tend to position it a few centimeters higher than the natural waist, above the widest part of the abdomen rather than at it. The eye anchors on the tie, and when the tie is above the fullest point, everything below it reads differently. Solid color works considerably better than print here, because a small floral or geometric pattern has a way of mapping the knot directly onto the widest point of the body, which defeats the whole purpose. The Breton stripe, for the same reason, tends not to work in this particular garment because horizontal lines at the midsection pull the eye exactly where you do not want it. Solid fabric moves with the body and lets the drape do what it is designed to do. The third piece is the long open cardigan, which might be the most misused garment in the mature women's wardrobe, not because women choose the wrong one, but because they wear the right one incorrectly. Wearing it belted at the waist, or buttoned closed, or cropped to the hip, all of those choices create horizontal emphasis at exactly the place where horizontal emphasis is least useful. The version that works is long, open, and worn straight, falling without interruption on both sides of the body and finishing somewhere between the upper thigh and the knee. This creates two clean vertical lines that frame the body rather than measure it. The midsection sits inside that frame and is no longer the subject of the image. A silk scarf, if she chooses to wear one, sits at the neckline and draws the eye upward, but the cardigan itself does the structural work regardless. French women use this piece across all seasons, a light cotton version in spring, fine merino through autumn, a longer draping wool when winter arrives. The silhouette principle holds across every version. The fourth piece is the straight-cut linen shirt, worn untucked and long enough to cover the full hip. It appears more reliably than almost anything else in the wardrobes of French women over 60, regardless of body type. And it works especially well for a round midsection because of what linen does as a fabric that cotton simply does not. A cotton shirt in the same cut will pull slightly at the front across the fullest part of the abdomen, and it begins to suggest the body underneath by mid-morning. Linen hangs differently. It has a natural drape and a slight inherent body that keeps it from clinging, even after hours of wear, even in genuine heat. White is the most common color, followed by ecru, pale chambray blue, and a fine, simple stripe. The shirt is not oversized in any fashion-forward sense. It is simply the right size, easy and straight, with the sleeves pushed up and the top two buttons open, worn as though it required no thought at all. It requires more thought than it appears to. The fifth piece is the wrap dress, specifically the version in a fluid, non-stretch fabric, silk, crepe, or viscose, with a proper skirt falling to or just below the knee. The jersey wrap dress, which became extremely popular for a time, stretches and clings and creates the opposite of the effect this dress is capable of. The fluid version works because the wrap creates a diagonal line across the front of the body, and diagonal is one of the most useful things a garment can introduce at the midsection because it interrupts the horizontal at the widest point and gives the eye movement and direction. Catherine Deneuve wore variations of this principle throughout her 60s and beyond. A fluid, moving fabric, a diagonal line, a low heel, and the effect was always ease rather than effort. French women tend to wear this dress with a low heel, which lengthens the leg and settles the proportion, though a flat works well too, and a sandal in warmer months is entirely fine. The sixth piece is the blazer, with one specification that determines whether it actually works. The version that works finishes below the fullest point of the hip, 2 or 3 centimeters below it, in an unstructured or lightly structured fabric, worn open, with soft shoulders and nothing fitted across the back. A blazer that sits at the hip or above it creates a horizontal line across the widest circumference, and the eye stops there. One that clears that point and finishes just below it frames the shape instead of marking it, and the eye continues past. French women of this generation wear this piece over almost everything, over a silk blouse for lunch, over a simple t-shirt and dark trouser at the weekend, over the wrap dress when the temperature drops in the evening. The trench coat operates on a similar principle. Its vertical fall and belted option make it broadly flattering. But the blazer worn open and long is more specifically useful for a round midsection because it provides that framing vertical without requiring any decision about where to place a belt. Getting the length right when you buy it is the only real discipline it requires. The seventh piece is the fluid midi skirt. A fitted midi doesn't work here because it follows the body from hip to calf and announces exactly what's underneath it. An A-line doesn't work either because it flares from the hip and adds volume at the widest point. What works is a skirt in a non-structured fluid fabric, silk, a light crepe, or a soft satin that skims the body from the waist without following it, falling in easy and unhurried movement to mid-calf. Worn with a close-fitting knit or a tucked blouse on top, it shifts the focal point to the contrast between the neat upper half and the moving lower half. The round midsection becomes the transition between those two things rather than the subject of them. French women have worn this skirt in some form for decades. The fabric refreshes occasionally, and the hemline moves a few centimeters in either direction with the times, but the underlying logic stays the same and continues to work for the same reason it always has. These 7 pieces don't share a trick or a technique in any obvious sense. What they share is an understanding of where the eye goes and why. They create proportion through line, through a vertical, a diagonal, a frame, a contrast, rather than through the logic of concealment. Concealment adds fabric, fabric adds volume, and volume was the problem from the beginning. French women over 60 have had decades to learn their own bodies, to understand what holds and let go of what doesn't. The body changed along the way. Most of them will tell you it changed more than once. The clothes they kept were the ones that worked with that changing body rather than against it. 7 pieces, more or less, worn in rotation for a very long time.